past 48 hours, Tropical Storm Cosme has been meandering itself around the eastern parts of the Eastern Pacific Basin, and it's just past its peak intensity. Right now, currently a tropical storm, and depending on who you ask, it might have got to hurricane status. Either way, it was a very borderline call. Peaked at 70 miles per hour winds in the overnight hours, but it's just come off that peak intensity down to 60 miles per hour right now, and a pressure of 998 millibars. Right now, our latest estimate movement-wise in due north at 3 miles per hour, which is 5 kilometers per hour, and we're pretty much low-end code blue for the storm. The main reason why we are code blue, though, is probably due to demand on our YouTube channel, primarily due to newly formed Tropical Depression 1W in the Western Pacific. So the storm is located right now at 15.6 degrees north, 114.8 degrees west regarding Cosme, if you're tracking it at home, which is 188 miles from Isla Clarion, 329 from Socorro Island, 592 from Cabo San Lucas, 656 from La Paz, and because why not, 2,661 miles away from Hilo in Hawaii. You can see those locations all in kilometers on the right side of those mileage distances, far away from any land areas, thankfully. So the storm wind field wise right now has a very small but really circular wind field right now. It's only just past its peak intensity, pretty much due south of Isla Clarion right now, and it's going to be moving very slowly off towards the northeast over the next few days with a gradual curve off towards the northwest. Most of that as a remnant low due to decreased geotechnical temperatures, which is over 28 degrees Celsius waters right now, so it's bought itself about 12 more hours of time. But any more due northward movement, and this storm is moving into cooler waters. So the primary threat with rip currents, as has been with both Barbara and Cosme, both are packed to peak intensities, though the rip currents remain the primary hazard. Once again, if you do plan on going to any coastal areas, especially in the Pacific coastal facing areas along the coastline of Mexico, please check with local beach statements from wherever they may be to see what your rip current risk is. And if you do end up going to any beachy areas, please know the signs and warnings and dangers and how to counteract rip currents in those coastal areas, as rip currents have been known to cause fatalities miles, thousands upon miles away from a tropical cyclone. There's even been some reports of rip currents on the U.S. East Coast of hurricanes way out in the central Atlantic, even over the eastern Atlantic. So this is what the tropical forecast looks like for the next few days, moving very, very slowly with a very quick depth, primarily due to those cooler waters and increasing amounts of wind shear. And as you can see, as we get towards the later part of this week, the remnant low will be dying off to the north of Isla Clarion, the west-northwest of Socorro Island, and that will bring an end to the tale of Tropical Storm Cosme here in the Eastern Pacific. And then our attention turns off towards the east for a new area of interest off towards the east with an 80% chance of formation in the next 7 days. Forecast cone pretty much tells a similar story. Gradual turn off towards the northeast with a gradual turn off towards the northwest. Most of that as a remnant low with a very quick weeding phase pretty much beginning in imminently, I should say. And not too much of a land threat, repeating the same thing over and over again at this point. No land threat over the next few days regarding Cosme, but what a way to start off the Eastern Pacific so far. By the way, fun fact, this is the earliest sea name storm on record for the Eastern Pacific, and the second earliest third tropical storm for the Eastern Pacific on record. So the satellite estimates are sort of all over the place now. AMSU and ADT have sort of collapsed with the degrading satellite presentation. SATCON's still up at just maybe a smidge higher than 60 miles per hour. National Hurricane Center at their 11 a.m. Eastern, which has to be 8 a.m. Pacific advisory, went with 65. We've trimmed it down a little bit due to the decreasing satellite presentation. You can see there on the GFS run, very quick depth with Cosme, but then our attention turns off towards the east, towards a developing area of interest. 80% chance of formation in the next 5 days. Develops into a hurricane here on the GFS, maybe even a Category 2 at day 5, day 6, day 7. So that's maybe one to watch. But of course, similar story. The more west that this incoming system is going to go, the weaker it's going to get with those waters. They really do drop off a cliff once you get really past Socorro Island, once you get really past that point of where it is now. Maybe even a little bit off towards the west. Give the basin a few more time and it'll fix that right on up. Maybe towards the middle part of July, those waters will ascend much farther off towards the northwest. The rainfall threat for Cosme doesn't look to be too bad over the next few days. Mainly where the system is right now, sort of giving the fish some water, I guess that's one way to word it. Maybe we're seeing rainfall estimates, maybe up towards 20 inches. But with this incoming system here in the Eastern Pacific, maybe we're seeing, 33 to maybe up towards 35 inches here with that incoming system. So you can see regarding the water temperatures, Cosme has bought itself a little bit more time. As long as it remains over those 27 degrees Celsius water temperatures over right now, it might have some chance of sustaining itself for a little bit longer, but the storm really at this point is on borrowed time, primarily due to those decreasing waters and increasing amounts of wind shear. Looking at the surface plots here, which we'll be transitioning over here shortly, we're not really going to be seeing too much on the surface observation plots. There they are. You've got some observations coming out of Cabo San Lucas on the tip of the Baja California Peninsula, which you can see on the top right-hand side there. Nothing really too much. That's probably going to be more in relation to outflow from the former Hurricane Barbara, now down to a tropical storm up there, weakening in a very similar fashion due to increasing wind shear in the cooler waters. Very similar fashion to Cosme, but going to be bringing a close end, or a rather quick end, to both of these tropical cyclones, Barbara and Cosme. But what a way to start the Pacific season so far. 3 storms in already, with number 4 on the way. Most of the models are closely in knit on a very slow movement off towards the northeast. Very quick weakening due to those waters and increasing amounts of wind shear, and a gradual turn off towards the northwest, far away from any land areas. Maybe some current risk, as I alluded to just a few minutes ago. You're really gonna have to pay attention on those coastal areas for other currents. Even though that this is just a mid to low tropical storm, this can still cause impact, and this can still cause fatalities in the form of currents. Pace WRF model, interestingly, thinks that this storm got all the way up to towards 90 miles per hour. I'm not sure about that. There have been some rumorings in the weather community that this was a hurricane, maybe briefly overnight. We'll have to wait and see what post analysis says, of course, by 413 and the National Hurricane Center. That'll probably come in a few months. Wind shear is on the rise just a little bit, up to 20 knots of wind shear. It'll sort of fluctuate over the next few days, but those decreasing waters will ultimately be what will kill Cosme off in the next few days. And eventually we're going to be seeing the death of Cosme's convective pattern in about 24 hours from now. And then, once this system moves off towards the northeast with that gradual turn off towards the northwest, a gradual spin down with the circulation, as is pretty normal for the Eastern Pacific. So here's a look at the basin overall. You can see Barbara is collapsing completely. Cosme is doing its best over what little water it has. And you can see on the bottom right-hand side there is our next system coming on in. I believe that will be Invest 93E here, if it hasn't been designated already. Eventually it will become 93E. That will be probably our next system. Next name up is Delilah. So that will probably be Delilah. What will happen to Delilah? We'll have to wait and see on that. We had to deal with Barbara and Cosme still. Let's get these systems out of here, then we can worry about the next system that's coming on in from the east. But regarding Cosme here, not bad start to the East Pacific season so far, although in the latest frames it sort of has fallen apart, primarily once again due to those water temperatures. 27 degrees Celsius waters is it's enough to sustain a type of cyclone for a little bit, but any significant amount of strengthening isn't really going to be enough to prove itself to get towards hurricane status. So a gradual weakening trend for Cosme underway now, with a more quickening pace of weakening over the next 12 to 24 hours, with eventual dissipation tomorrow afternoon. Tropical storm Cosme is quickly closing out its story here, and Delilah's story appears to be getting off towards the east, and we'll have updates on Delilah and whatever comes out of it over the next few days as it parallels the coastline of Mexico. Wow, Eastern Pacific, what a start!